So I'll start off. I'll tell you my story, Cullinane. I went to a college graduation on Saturday. Congratulations to my son Jack. He graduated. We perfect day, perfect weather. We get there, and you've been used to wearing a mask in any public place in Massachusetts. So we get the masks on. We step on the field. It was on the football field. The chairs were all set up, socially distanced. And all the graduates had to be masked up. In fact, they had to wear the official school mask. They gave a mask, and they had to wear the mask that said the school on it. And you could see all the graduates masked up clearly. And the parents were too when you got there, because you just figured you had to. And I'm pretty sure it was in a memo somewhere. But we get there, and we find our seat, and we're sitting around. I start looking around. I say, nobody. Tell my wife, I said, these people aren't wearing their masks. I go, this is awesome. So we peel off the mask. Felt like it was part of a movie, this dramatic moment. I needed a little theme music or something. And everyone just kind of pulled them off and put them away, or pulled them down to their neck if it was a gaiter. And nobody, I'm telling you, nobody in the parents section, and there had to be 500 people. I'm telling my wife, I go, there is nobody wearing a mask anymore. It was that moment, Saturday afternoon. I'd say it was 2:00. It was typical 2021. The speaker was some urban league guy who was talking about social justice, which you'd expect, and got a little of that from the students who spoke. But it was a moment, and I think a lot of people experienced that moment. Unfortunately, a lot of them had to hear it from the CDC before they realized how silly it is to be wearing a mask outdoors. I think everybody, and this I think over this weekend, because the weather was so good, it just felt like spring is here, summer is coming, and everyone, we've always known
it's going to be for a while. Like it's going to be extended for a while. So all goodness is in your brain, right?
But we've always known wearing a mask outside was stupid. It was, it didn't help anything. It didn't do anything. We found out last week officially from the CDC that the most political, the Center for Disease Control, it's just a bunch of political hacks, starting with Walensky, the head of the CDC, and we'll get to her. But it is funny because I've told you before, I put the number a couple of weeks ago, I put the number at masked up people outdoors in Boston at 95%. Runners, bikers, dog walkers, you name it, everybody. I was getting all the dirty looks and occasional comments because I would walk my dog without a mask, of course, because I'm not an idiot. But these people just want to be told what to do. They want to follow the rules. They want a virtue signal and say, look at me, I got a mask. And speaking of virtual signaling, I'm just going to say to my friends on Twitter, if you have a mask on in your avatar, it's time to change it, because you look like a fool. If you have a mask in your picture on Twitter, to virtue signal, say, look at me. I love those people, because as soon as you see it, they're going to hate me and give me all the, the same crap about 570,000 dead, which we got over the weekend from Cuomo, who's still insisting people in New York State have to wear masks in defiance of the CDC edict. But it felt like everything changed. It turned. Everything changed this weekend. People finally woke up, whether you're vaccinated or not. There was no point in wearing a mask outdoors. There was people, just literally went out, didn't even bring them. I said, we're gonna go walk around, jog, and enjoy our life, and we're not going to be obstructing our breathing canals anymore.
You word this like everybody's in on that. Like everywhere I go, maybe I hang in different circles. Apparently, people have the mask and they're ready to pull it out. They're like waiting to see if the other person will. At the playgrounds with literally again, I saw a mask on a 4-year-old.
That is child abuse.
So I'm edgy because I showed up, no mask on. My 3.5-year-old, no mask on. I'm edgy. I'm not the one who's going to pull it out first. And they're all pulling it out every time you get there. I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but you're in the city with more people.
Sadly, I think people needed to hear it from the CDC or the governor. Our governor, our benevolent governor in Massachusetts, Charlie Baker. He didn't go with Cuomo and say, you got to keep wearing your mask, but he did come up with, the new rules the new rules say you don't have to wear them outdoors if you're vaccinated. But this is my new pet peeve. This is the new thing that is driving me nuts. And I know I've been saying it for weeks, but I don't care. When they come out with these phases, like all the governors, not all the governors, but the blue state governors, the liberals like Baker and Cuomo and Whitmer, they come out with these updates. They love it. They love it. They have a press conference and everyone's there and they get to walk out with the mask on, and now they get to pull it off if they're outdoors and speak to their subjects. And this today, you're going to get an update from your governor probably, but I think it was yesterday or over the weekend. They reviewed the phases, and here's one phase. The next phase is May 29th, opening up bars, distilleries, where you can distilleries and wineries where you can get a drink without ordering food. It's just so nice, and I want to speak for everybody in the state and say thank you, Governor Baker. This is so gracious. This is just so kind of you to allow people to go to bars and distilleries and have a drink without eating food. I mean, it's just, I always thought that was the governor's role to force you to get food with your drink at a bar. I mean, I read that in the history books. It's in the Constitution. I'm pretty sure. Look it up. It's in the Bill of Rights. The governor will tell you when you're allowed to have a drink without food. That's a couple of weeks from now. Street festivals and parades can happen at 50% capacity. And if you're running a parade or a street festival, I guess you say, what the hell is 50% capacity parade? So do you plan a parade and then kick half the people out? Do you plan a parade and then have an attendance? I mean, people show up with their kids to watch a parade on Memorial Day, and you have to make sure you have 50% capacity. How does that work? Here's the thing. I think, as I've said many times, the most discouraging part of the whole pandemic, we expect from our elected officials, we expect the power grab. We expect the lack of common sense. We expect them to grab control, hang on to it, and don't give it up at any cost. That's what they do. We've learned people like Baker and Cuomo and Whitmer are awful people. They're just terrible people who don't care about small businesses. Clearly didn't care about kids in school. They cared about power, period, and they still do. But that's not.
Not that they still do. This is the ultimate test. I mean, you've been on this for a long time, but now the CDC comes out and says you don't have to wear it outdoors, basically. And now you're going to see, like, look at Cuomo. That's your example already. Like, Cuomo isn't following CDC guidelines. He is not letting go of power.
We play lots of sound of people who are really hateable. Just people like, Fauci, and we play, sound from guys on CNN and everything. There's nobody as hateable I'm talking about like real, like O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson does videos all the time on Twitter, and sometimes they're stupid and we mock them. I don't think anybody is as hateable. Nobody makes you want to just rear back and smash him in the face, like Andrew Cuomo, who had to do this because that's what he does. He defied the CDC and said, no, you got to still wear a mask, without any real, forget science, not even real any common sense behind the argument. But let's hear from Cuomo and what he said to his subjects over the weekend. A guy who should have been impeached a year ago for the way he handled the pandemic, the way he killed at least 15,000 seniors. And then on top of that, you had the sexual harassment scandal where he was grabbing everything in his office, and most of them were 40 years younger than he is, didn't care. Just an awful man, just an awful human being who is such a narcissist that he thinks that we're all here, to serve him. Every young female in his office and every citizen in New York, they're just there to serve him and his massive ego. Why he hasn't been impeached? I mean, I know why, because he's corrupt, and so are the Democrats in every single one of them in New York who won't remove him. But anyway, let's hear from the wonderful Andrew Cuomo over the weekend, telling his subjects in New York they still have to mask up.
It takes so little. Over 500,000 people have died in the nation. It takes so little to wear the mask. Well, you don't really need it. You know, you don't need it until you do need it.
There's your guy. He won't let go.
What day is that from?
I believe that's from, I want to say Thursday or Friday.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We've already found out the masks are useless outdoors. We believe most New Yorkers
yeah, that's what I was just going to ask.
Vaccinated.
How many people in New York? I'd say 50% at least are vaccinated in New York. I would assume they've done enough to scare the shit out of people in New York, of all places.
Right. New York has had 53,000 deaths, 600,000 deaths in the country. So he's way off. He doesn't even keep track of that. New York is still, let me check. They're still number 2 in deaths behind New Jersey. Massachusetts is close behind, number 3 in the country. 4 Rhode Island. I mean, all blue states with blue state governors who had this insane overreaction to the pandemic. It's been over a year. We now know these lockdowns don't work. We now know these governors contributed to the carnage in their own states. But that was over the weekend. I believe that was Friday. Cuomo saying it takes so little to wear a mask after we've learned from the CDC and others that there's no point in wearing a mask. So you still have the guy saying wear a mask. It takes so little. And then he talks about the deaths. And I'll say it again. Someone has to explain to me what wearing a mask outdoors, especially if you're vaccinated, what that has to do with the death toll. I mean, Cuomo should be a law where he's not allowed to talk about the death toll. I mean, this is a guy who did more to run up the numbers than anybody, I don't know, in the world. There's nobody who contributed to that carnage like Andrew Cuomo. 53,000 dead in New York, at least 15,000 because of him in nursing home, because of his order. And we're listening to him talk about masks and how you need masks. And I mean, any minute now, there'll be a picture of him somewhere without a mask, because that's how it works. I mean, the people who tell you about the dangers of coronavirus, the people who speak the loudest and most often don't believe that there's any real danger. They don't. The ones who say it the most don't believe it. We've had enough examples of hypocrisy from elected officials and celebrities and politicians. They don't believe what they're saying. And I think by now, everybody, at least all the parents at the graduation I was at and all the people I saw over the weekend, and I saw a lot of them outdoors, they don't believe it anymore either. They know people like Cuomo and Baker are full of crap, and they're not listening anymore. They're literally pulling these things off and throwing them away and saying, enough. Our friend Tom Shattuck sent me a picture. I don't know if he included you on that, Callahan, but over the weekend, his softball league, I don't know if it was one team or the whole league, but they said, we're done here. And they allowed the 8 or 9-year-old girls to take them face masks off. It is nuts. I got a lot of these texts when I mentioned this over the weekend. It's nuts that there are leagues, softball, baseball leagues, where the players, kids, in this case, 8, 9-year-olds or, 10, 12, 15-year-olds are playing baseball, softball, soccer, and they're wearing masks, but the parents don't have to anymore. The parents, they're old, and like at the graduation, the parents don't have to, or decided not to wear masks. The kids had to, because they know they'll get in trouble. We went over this last week at UMass. They kicked 3 girls out of school for taking a picture without masks off campus, and had, off campus, had nothing to do with school. They saw the picture and they kicked them out of school. I don't know if there's an update on that. There probably will be, because it's so insane, even by Massachusetts standards. But kids at a graduation, or kids playing softball, kids playing soccer, their first thought when they're ready to take the mask off is, I'll get kicked out. I'll get suspended. I'll lose my diploma. That's how crazy it's gotten. So kids think before they remove their masks that some adult is going to come down hard on them and ruin their life. And there's a reason they think that, because it's happened to a number of kids. It's happened to a number of people already, that, you remove the mask, you could get kicked out of school. You could get kicked out of the game. You could get punished severely by these adults who are virtue signaling. They know you're not going to hurt anyone if you take the mask off. They know you're not going to get sick. They know you're not going to get anyone else sick. They know there's absolutely no reason for you to have that mask on. They don't care. These are the worst kind of people. And I'm telling you, the level of this, this level of compliance, this level of obedience is the most discouraging thing, because as I predicted, and I'll go do it again, they saw, the powers that be saw how this worked, how they could get everybody to do as they were told, to stay in when going out was better for your health, to not to not work out, exercise, because they closed the gyms and the parks. Stay home, eat, get fat. Staying home and being fat are two of the real dangerous things when it came to coronavirus. Your government told you to do that, and people did it. That is so discouraging, because they're going to do it again. I'm predicting it's going to be about climate change. Do you put it past the Biden administration to do that within 6-8 months or a year? Just say we have to take some old familiar lockdown measures to protect the planet. They'll make up some nonsense and say, we're going to close school, we're going to close businesses, we're going to do whatever, ban cars at certain hours, whatever it takes to protect the planet against climate change. It'll be a load of crap, but that's what they know now. That's what they can do. They know now they can do that. Hell, over the weekend, Fauci was a speaker at a graduation. I can't believe any college would bring that.
Can you imagine how many colleges requested Fauci?
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's the only place where people still respect him. It'd be journalism, like obviously the New York Times, Washington Post, all the radical fringe people who that's 100% of people in the mainstream media and academia, colleges. They're the only people left who think Fauci is a respected voice, who think Fauci is an authority on anything other than protecting his own ass and advancing his own, feeding his own ego. The guy is just a menace. But he was speaking at a college down in Georgia, and he started talking about systemic racism in the healthcare. And I'm going, what? You're an epidemiologist. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But the unfairness of the racial disparities and this and that. And I'm saying, you're supposed to be studying a virus and its transmission. He is such a friggin' con man, and I'm done with him, obviously. But I can't wait for everyone to just be done with this man. He's done so much damage. He's done so much harm. He's not going to let this go, obviously. Next time he speaks, it'll probably be today with Chris Cuomo or Anderson, or his friend Anderson, or his friend Chuck Todd, or his friend George Stephanopoulos, and he'll say, we really should keep masking up. We really didn't. The light is at the end of the tunnel. We really, we're so close. It'd be like, okay, we'll deal with what's left of the pandemic. You go away now. You go back to the office for once in your life and do some work, or you retire and go fishing. You fraud. But
do you think that? Do you think the end of? Well, it's actually more of the vaccine. The CDC announcement that came. What was that, Thursday? Now, since we've been at
Thursday, yes.
Do you think that was on the heels of the New York Times that we were talking about with outdoor transmission?
Yes. Well, that was
got enough backlash. That was
To me, it was everything to do is political. Keep that in mind.
CDC, she's just following the science.
CDC might as well be the DNC. That's how political they are, and I could prove it with your help here in a moment. But things were bad. The people running the country. Obviously Biden's not, but Kamala Harris and Susan Rice and Barack Obama and whoever else is, in the behind the scenes pulling the strings, are looking at this. They're looking at war in the Middle East. They're looking at gas lines and the hackers. The pipeline hackers causing chaos, and people are filling up trash bags with gasoline, and inflation, and just things were bad. There was this was, I don't say an emergency, but there was a desperate time, called for a desperate measure, and they always had this ace up their sleeve. When things were bad, we wanted to give the American public some good news. When his approval rating was slipping, they said, here's what we're going to do. On that day, we will tell people they can lose the mask and go back to living their lives. So that's what it was. The reason it was just politics, and this Walensky is not only a political hack, she's a pretty good actress. I mean, she could just be, I thought Fauci and Jerome Adams and Birx were good when they lied to us for weeks about masks, saying, oh, you don't need a mask, just because they didn't want people hoarding the masks. Instead of saying, let's just let the medical people get the masks. The first responders get the masks. Just wait. They said, oh, masks don't help. I mean, they literally lied to the world for weeks about masks just so people wouldn't run out and buy masks. But anyway, this Walensky, I mean, she puts it on heavy, man. She holds nothing back. Here's your timeline on Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC. March 30th, not that long ago, Colin, March 30th. What is that, 6 weeks ago?
Yep.
She said she's feeling a sense of impending doom. Impending doom. Those were her words, that the worst was yet to come, that there was going to be a wave, like we'd never seen before, of death, of cases, of just an out of control pandemic that would force whatever, more lockdowns, more closings, more everything. This was the head of the CD with a serious look on her face. I don't know. We can play it and you can hear it, but this is her talking about how disaster was on the horizon.
It was one of those times when I have to share the truth and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom. We have so much to look forward to, so much promise and potential of where we are, and so much reason for hope. But right now I'm scared.
Oh my God. Right now I'm scared. That woman is a doctor. She's supposed to have this clinical, this, serious, sober analysis of the situation. Right now I'm scared. So anyway, if you're paying attention to this political hack, you're saying, wow, I guess I'm not going to lose the mask. I'm not going to go outside. I'm not going to go. If you're
that was great. That was great.
Callahan, you say, I'm not going to a restaurant. God, we'll all die. We go to a restaurant. If you're paying attention to her, you're thinking this spring is going to be awful. This spring is going to be a nightmare. That's March 30th. I just want to fast forward to May 11th. And we talked about this last week, how ridiculous this was when they came out with the rules for summer camp. All of them were defying science, not all of them, but the top ones, the top three we went over, where kids, 5, 8, 7, 10-year-old kids had to wear a mask at all times unless they were eating or swimming. So they're out playing on a hot summer day at a camp, playing whatever, soccer or volleyball or, out canoeing, whatever you do at summer camp these days. They had to keep their masks on, obstruct their breathing, even though they're no danger of getting the virus or giving the virus or anything. It was just, again, more virtue signaling from these political hacks. The other rule is they have to maintain their social distance, which again, we found out that was a made up number, the 6 feet, and it doesn't matter. We know that. And they couldn't share toys or sports equipment with other kids. And we already knew the virus wasn't being transmitted on surfaces. We already knew that wasn't a problem, but the CDC came out with these rules for summer camp on May 11th, and this woman talked about her son, who's 16, by the way, and he would count down the days when he got home from camp to the time he could go back. And I'm saying 16-year-olds don't do that, but whatever. She makes up stuff every day. And she wasn't going to send her kid back to camp, a 16-year-old. So this woman who's supposed to be an expert says, I have a 16-year-old son. I can't send him to camp. It's too dangerous. And I don't know who was asking the questions. It was just a conference call where she was doing all the talking. But my follow-up would be, why? Why would you not send a 16-year-old to camp?
That was Susan Collins. Yeah, we'll play it. But that was Susan Collins questioning her.
Oh, well.
With regard to camp, I have a 16-year-old. Every year he comes home from camp and he writes the number of days until he returns to camp the next year. This year, it got to 0, and I told him he wasn't going.
What would she's making that up because it hasn't gotten to 0. It only gets to 0 in the summer, And B, you just came up with the rules. You just said kids have to wear masks. They have to keep distance. They can't touch other kids' stuff. So if those rules were based on science, why wouldn't you send your own child to camp? I don't understand. And obviously I do understand, because she's lying. She's just lying to keep.
We said that last week. She set the rules, and she is deciding not to send her own child to go abide by those rules, which then tells millions of Americans that you should do the same as me. It made no sense whatsoever.
What kind of 16-year-old boy does that anyway? I can't wait to go back to camp. Shouldn't he be out chasing girls?
So into this. That is chasing girls for a lot of guys. That is back in the day. What are you talking about? Girls from other towns?
Yeah, you think he's
home run?
Yeah, but his mom said you have to keep your distance, so he's not going to get, he's not going to get lucky. With little Mary Sue Rottencrotch down at summer camp. So, sorry, kid, you can't go because it's too dangerous. All right, to keep this timeline going, that was May 11th. May 13th, I'm pretty sure that's 2 days later. That would be last Tuesday. She said summer camp is too dangerous for her child. Thursday, 2 days later, she said, never mind. Don't need masks. Open up the country. Let's go. Let's everyone go back to work, go back to restaurants, lose the mask. That was Thursday. And you know why? Was it new data? Was it a new study from Denmark or from China or something? Was it new evidence that masks outside weren't helping? Was it new evidence that there was enough vaccinated people so that people could go about their lives? There was none of that. None. No new data. Zero. She just decided. Well, she didn't decide. The Biden administration decided time for some good news. Let's let people go outside without masks. It was good news
because Twitter reacted to a New York Times report.
That's a good point. We went over that last week when I think the New York Times, even though you can't believe what you read in the New York Times normally, but you have to admit when they do something like this, they do it grudgingly. The New York Times admitting that masks don't help and admitting that there are 0 cases in the entire world of people getting the virus from casual outdoor interaction. 0 in the whole world. We went over in the entire world, 7.6 billion people, and nobody got the virus from walking by someone while walking their dog, or outside at a kid's baseball game or softball game. 33 million cases. That's just in the United States. You want to know how in the world? In the entire world, there are 163 million cases recorded, 3.4 million deaths. Not one from outdoor transmission. Not one. You're right. That was in the New York Times.
But I always say this, like you base things a lot off Twitter, right? You have no friends, so you're just on Twitter reading what's going on. I didn't hear one person come up to me and be like, "Hey, did you see that report in the New York Times about outdoor transmission?"
But you did hear him say we don't have to wear masks because the governor said, or the CDC said we don't have to. They don't ask why. They never ask why. They just say, "Oh, good, I don't have to wear a mask." Plus, they're vaccinated, and this is such a dumb argument. I don't even know why we're going to spend another second on it, but I just saw it. I was watching a show this morning and they were having this argument, and the one person saying to the other one, what do you care what I do if you're vaccinated? And I've yet to hear a good answer to that. I have not. If you're vaccinated, why do you care what I do, whether I'm masked up or whether I'm distanced or whether I'm vaccinated? Why do you care? And I know I've asked this 100 times. I'm done. I'm done asking.
I can give you a little example from the workplace, from Walensky herself. There's a little question from our friend.
We haven't heard from her on the 13th when she said, all that stuff I send about impending doom, never mind. No new evidence, but I got my orders. The White House called. They said we need some good news, so tell people they can go outside without masks. Can we hear from Walensky last Thursday?
Today, CDC is updating our guidance for fully vaccinated people. Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. If you are fully vaccinated, you can start doing the things that you had stopped doing because of the pandemic. We have all longed for this moment when we can get back to some sense of normalcy. Based on the continuing downward.
We're back.
That is amazing. 2 days after she said she wouldn't send her child to summer camp, 6 weeks after she said we're heading for impending doom. No new evidence, just everything's changed. We're good. Go back to your lives. And people did. Even you, when you saw people outside, I went from 95, my number at 95% people masked up in Boston to about 25 yesterday, 25, 30, I'd say is the number now, which is way, much higher, obviously, than free states like Texas and Florida and Mississippi and out west, these places.
Wait, whoa. 25% of people you saw walking around the city yesterday were wearing masks?
Yes.
Oh my God, what's going on in the suburbs then? The suburbs aren't with you. I'd say I see 75% of people walking around with literally nobody around them wearing masks.
75%. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, they're not paying attention then because, no, I'd say, 25, 30%, maybe less people outdoors masked up. But which is good. I mean, it's about time, and it'll get better because it feels even dumber to wear a mask when it's warm out and nice and sunny. And it is, there's no turning back now. As I said, Portnoy said on Fox News last night, why do you have these different dates? I mean, it's a question we should be asking, not of these tyrants, not of Baker or Whitmer. I mean, because we know they live for the control. We know they are drunk with power, and they don't feel like giving that up. But why can whatever what was again, bars, distilleries, wineries open in 2 weeks and not today? Why can't they open today? Why can't you have a parade today? Why do you have to wait? The whole state in Massachusetts and other blue states like New York and New Jersey, they have these phases. August 1st is the last phase where everything can be open. August 1st, I think I have that right. August 1st. So my question again is, why do you have to wait till August 1st? What's going to change? It's amazing. Stadiums right now are 25%. Why can't they be open fully? They're open fully down south in Texas. Texas numbers, they had 0 deaths. I think it was yesterday in Texas. Record low cases, hospitalizations, everything is way, way down. And they've been open for months, full capacity for months. Since opening day, the Texas Rangers have played in front of full houses. And the numbers just continue to get better. So why do we allow governors like, these hardcore lockdown liberals like Charlie Baker to tell whatever the Red Sox and or whoever that you can't have more than 25%? Why? It is nuts what we've allowed these people to do to us and condition the way they've conditioned people to thinking they know what they're doing. They're looking out for our best interest. We better follow the science. How much more evidence do you need that even the Center for Disease Control isn't about science? I mean, how much more evidence do you need that Andrew Cuomo and Charlie Baker and Gretchen Whitmer and Phil Murphy don't give a damn about science? I don't know what more it will take, but I mean, people
actually, somebody just brought this in the comment section on YouTube, by the way, and this was the first thing my mother said to me. What was the deal with the Yankees players tested positive and they've all been fully vaccinated? Like that's the new thing.
I guess it was right. They were vaccinated and then they tested positive right after. They went to 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
But none of them is symptomatic. I mean, they didn't even know it.
Yep.
I don't know the explanation, but it's not a problem. They'll be fine. They're not dying. They're not hospitalized. For the most part, the reason deaths are so far down is because we protected, just like, Ron DeSantis did. He made a priority of protecting the vulnerable, the elderly. And if young people get the virus, if college kids are getting it at 25-year-olds, who cares? They'll be better. They'll get better. They'll have the antibodies. They don't need the vaccine. But anyway, we spent too much time on that. We're opening up. We're done with this. Everyone's moving on. I implore our listeners, when this Walensky woman or Fauci comes on your TV, laugh at them. Laugh at them. They're not on the level. Nothing is on the level. This is not about science. It never was with these people. Just consider that. We gave you the timeline for Walensky. We already know how often Fauci's been wrong about everything. Stop listening to them. God, why? I can't believe people still sit there and say, well, what does Fauci have to, what is Walensky? What is the CDC saying? Whatever they're saying, it's on orders from the Biden administration. These are political hacks. That's all they are. Stop listening to them. Anyway, we got so much more to get to here on this busy Monday morning. I want to get to the CNN contributor who loves Hitler, but today is a big day in sports, as you know, Callahan. And I'm not talking about your the NHL playoffs. Yep. I'm talking about the NBA playoffs because God knows, the NBA is a big deal. LeBron against Steph Curry in the play-in game tonight. The Celtics play tonight against Washington in a play-in game. I had to actually look up the whole rules of the play-in tournament and how it works and who's in it and all that. I'll be watching some of it, and that would put me in the very, very small minority. I could not believe the NBA ratings for this season. I'm serious. I had to read this twice. I thought I had it backwards. Their ratings are way down from last year. And I said, well, that happens. A lot of sports, a lot of entertainment ratings have fallen. Last year was a little cheesy summer tournament. It wasn't even a real season, and nobody was watching, and the numbers were terrible.
Last year we were in the thick of it all. Like we were in the thick of the only thing you wanted to consume whatsoever was COVID news. Right?
They were down 13%, 2021. I guess this would be 20 and 21 season, down 13% from last year's condensed coronavirus summer tournament in Orlando when there were no fans, and they had to it was all political and it didn't seem important, and it didn't feel like anyone was watching. The numbers for the NBA went down from that, and they're down from in the last 10 years, from 10 years ago on ABC. They're down 45%. 45%. You still have some, again, you got LeBron against Steph Curry. You got some big names, some big stars, and some marquee matchups, and you have ESPN that's almost full-time promoting the league, and they're down almost half from 10 years ago. Now, we've gone over a lot of numbers about a lot of things. We'll get to Saturday Night Live, get my Monday morning review of SNL, and that disaster. Lots of things are down, numbers are down, but the NBA has lost half its viewers in 10 years. That's amazing, and that is, and you can't tell me, and I realize it's about people watching other things or cutting the cord or whatever. It's political. It's political. Not entirely, but politics, and listening to a-holes like LeBron James lie about the state of this country and race relations, and lie about cops. That turned a lot of people off. That cost them a lot.
How can you make that argument when the NFL has been in the thick of that one too? Obviously, with the Kaepernick stuff, and
they weren't close. Well, Kaepernick's been gone. The NFL wasn't close to the level of the politics that the NBA. They literally painted it on the court.
Yeah,
Black Lives Matter and this and that, and they wore T-shirts and they took knees, and the marquee guys like LeBron were hardcore, and it turned a lot of people off, and I'm sure they still have their core audience, but the people, on the fringes, the casual fans, found it really easy to turn it off, to watch something else, or to watch the news. It was, there was a lot of news over the last year, and I think a lot of people went to what. I mean, hell, their average, ABC last season, the NBA on ABC had its lowest average on record, 2.95 million. That's less than Tucker or Hannity or Rachel Maddow gets. They're getting outrated by cable news nightly shows that that are very polarizing. It's half the country's not going to watch them because they hate them. So I mean, I'm never going to watch Rachel Maddow, but she's getting bigger numbers than the NBA, which is remarkable. We'll see how it does. Obviously, it gets some good matchups. Obviously, Steph against LeBron, even though LeBron rolled his ankle. Steph just won another scoring title, and they square off at 10 o'clock tonight. And I'm sure, that'll get decent numbers, but we'll see if when it's all said and done, if they can top last. I don't even remember the format last year. I don't remember. I know the Lakers won. Who'd they beat?
That's a great question. I just think the NBA, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way you consume media nowadays, which I think is the biggest impact. I just think it's boring to watch. Like I can see the dunk, like literally on Twitter within seconds. Like I don't care about the whole,
and I know you care about hockey. Hockey's numbers are up. Well, at least
it was actually some number last week that was just horrific. Like they got horrific numbers right after they announced the new Turner Sports and ESPN deals, which probably wasn't great, but it was horrific numbers last week. But yeah, you're right. I mean, but at least it's a fast pace. But let's be honest, it's kind of like with football. There's that like threat of violence, right? That's like somewhat enjoyable to consume. Yes. Whereas the NBA, it's just it's a whole different.
And you don't feel for 1 second there's anything political about the NHL. No one's going to take a knee and disrespect the country. They don't hate the country that's been so good to them, whether it's the U.S. or Canada. There's just don't have with the NBA, it just hangs over everything. As that some of these guys, beginning with the biggest guy of all, is an entitled little brat who doesn't have any gratitude for all the great things this country has done for him. Doesn't care. He's going to lie. He's going to bitch. And I mean, I think when he docks the cop, Nicholas Reardon, who saved the girl in pink in Columbus, Ohio, we went over this enough. When he put a target on his back, I think that was a seminal moment. People said, F this guy. I'm done with him, and bailed, and the numbers bear that out. I'm unfortunately my weekly my tradition watching SNL. Hate watching SNL, and I don't always hate watching it. Sometimes it has its moment. Last week we went over the Elon Musk show, which wasn't the worst ever. Wasn't even the worst one the last 2 weeks.
Pretty bad though. It was pretty bad, but it wasn't.
It was pretty bad, but again, you got to grade on a curve.
Yeah.
Saturday night, Keegan-Michael Key, who is a funny guy, obviously from Key and Peele, hosted and vowed before it to make it the best episode ever in the 50-year history of SNL. It was a ridiculous promise because he's a funny guy. He's a creative guy. He still has perhaps the worst cast in SNL history. Just a bunch of nobodies who aren't funny, who have no presence, who are political people who, as we know, weren't happy that Elon Musk was hosting, because Elon Musk is a billionaire. We don't like billionaires unless it's the right billionaire. I'm pretty sure Keegan-Michael Key is pretty wealthy. Anyway,
Bill Gates.
It was such an awful episode. I felt bad for Keegan-Michael Key. I really did. It was the opening skit was terrible. Not as bad as the opening skit with Elon Musk, I'll give you that. But you can't have a great episode of SNL. They don't have any writers. They got the budget and they have no writers. The cast sucks.
If you're doing a sketch about the fact that you need to use sketches to correlate the news, am I wording that the right way? Like they did a sketch about using sketches to give. It was you're lost. Like that writer's room is just completely.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're all and I watch the news, the Colin Jost, Michael Che, because I like news, even if it's fake news and it's all political, and they hate, Mitch McConnell. They always bring up Trump, and they don't take any shots at Biden or Hunter, anything. But, they have their moments occasionally. There'll be something, mildly humorous. They had a Bob Baffert imitation that wasn't bad. But here's the truth, the dirty little secret they don't want to admit. Kate McKinnon sucks. She's terrible. She's not funny. She does characters that doesn't work. She did Fauci. Do you remember who the last person who did Fauci on SNL was before her?
Oh yeah, who was that?
Brad Pitt.
That's right.
And he was much better. Kate McKinnon is terrible. She did Rudy Giuliani. She did Jeff Sessions. She does Hillary. She did Lynn Cheney. She's not good. I don't know whoever decided she was a good impersonator, but she's not. She's terrible. And her Fauci was terrible in the opening skit. But anyway, I watched, and I was in the minority. I just retweeted this because the ratings just came out, and I had to again read this twice. The worst ratings in the show's history. In the show's history. That show's been on for quite a while. There's been some bad shows. There's been bad casts. I don't think there's ever been a cast this bad. They had 3.5 million viewers, the lowest rating ever for a show that's been on since what, 1975?
Yep.
Um,
They just had that big anniversary show, right? What was that, last year or the year before?
50 years. Yeah, whatever was when they brought back, Eddie Murphy, and everyone had to kiss his ass. And but anyway, worst numbers ever, 3.5 million viewers. That's amazing. Because I think Keegan, I keep wanting to say Michael Keegan. Michael Key is a pretty big deal and funny guy, and I was curious to see how he'd do. Didn't do great, but
he's not a name. He's not a host name. That's not a star.
But he's into it. He's a showman. He was into dancing, and he was into singing, and he's into it. Musk's, as we mentioned last week, was the third highest rated of the year, behind Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. Two guys that just show up and they're going to get big numbers. But Musk got 7.3 million viewers. Michael Key got 3.5. And again, 3.5 is an average night for Tucker Carlson or even Rachel Maddow. That sucks. And I don't know why. I guess, again, politics is all that matters, because actually Keegan-Michael Key did do a good imitation of Michael Jordan in the Jordan documentary, when they had that weird clubhouse guy in Chicago. And then that wasn't terrible, but the show, for the most part, as usual, was terrible. And people accuse me of saying, why do you do that? Why do you tweet about it? Why do you talk about it? No one's watching. Again, I hate watch it. It's a car burning on the side of the highway, and it's a shame that the once great franchise that had such icons as Belushi and Chris Farley and Phil Hartman and Adam Sandler and all the rest, Dana Carvey has been reduced to this.
What's the last movie? What is the last time a movie was created off a sketch?
That's a good point. You can't picture anyone. You can't picture anyone in the cast doing a movie. I mean, Adam Sandler's made $4 billion at the box office, making movies, some funnier than others. But you can't picture one person making one movie that would, even like as big as, Jason Sudeikis. There's no one there now who's as big as Jason Sudeikis.
Well, they're in movies, but I meant, like, what's a movie that was created off a character of SNL, which used to happen very frequently.
Right.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
No, they don't have anybody. They don't have anyone. I mean, the best guy in the cast is probably Kenan Thompson, who's been there like 10 years.
Yep.
He's probably been in movies. I don't know, but he can't carry a movie.
This makes me think we just figured out their exact audience. It's 3.5 million people, because I don't think this Keegan-Michael Key, or whatever his name is, I don't think he drew one extra person into the mix. And I think that it all matters who the host is, and they're going to drive above the 3.5 million. That's all that matters.
And you know what? Again, they're so political that they don't care about ratings, or they care about their side, and they'll take care of their side, and they'll take their shots at Lynn Cheney or Mitch McConnell, and they'll protect their guys, Hunter Biden and and Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. And anyway, a couple other things here. There was a point, I forget what point in his presidency, Donald Trump called the media the enemy of the people, and the people in the media, and lots of people not in the media, were offended and upset. And I've mentioned it once or twice over the years, said here's why they're the enemy of the people. People jump on me and say, oh, you need a free press. Of course you do. We don't have a free and impartial press, but it would be nice if we did. Here are a couple of reasons that Trump was right and the media is indeed the enemy of the people. I don't think you're going to find better examples of this when you had a bombing, a missile hit a building in Gaza. The Israelis took out a building. They gave them warning, ample warning, get everyone out. It was the headquarters of the Associated Press in Gaza, and it was also the headquarters of Hamas. The Hamas was renting space to the Associated Press, and then we learned that the Associated Press people were supporters of Hamas. The Associated Press. There was also Al Jazeera, which wasn't a surprise in the building, but Associated Press. So people were upset. Even the White House was releasing statements about we have to protect the press. Well, we did protect them. No, Israel did. They got them out. They warned them, get out. They got out. But is that not the most revealing thing, that you're renting space from a terrorist organization? I guess you could say you're not just renting space, you're supporting a terrorist organization, and your office got blown away because you are in the same building as these terrorists who are planning attacks on civilians. That was pretty revealing. And I don't know what I assume AP is looking for new space. So they're going to rent from, whoever. They're going to rent from Al Qaeda next. It's just amazing. The Associated Press is, as corrupt as no one's as corrupt as the New York Times, except maybe the Washington Post or the Boston Globe, but they're close. Example number 2 of why the 45th president said they're the enemy of the people. And this was amazing. This broke yesterday. And I don't know why it took so long, but there's a journalist, and God, I use that term loosely, named Adil Raja. Adil Raja contributes to CNN. In fact, I think his title is CNN contributor. He has had at least 54 bylines on CNN.com. Adil Raja also happens to be a big fan of Adolf Hitler. Here's one of his tweets that made the rounds yesterday, which he deleted. This was from May 16th. So this was Sunday, right?
Yep.
Sunday. Yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, a CNN contributor tweeted, "The world today needs a Hitler." The world needs a Hitler in the middle of this skirmish in the Middle East. And by the way, violence against Jewish people all over the place, as you saw in London and New York. And it's getting a little tense out there amidst the violence in the Middle East. And, all those, it's too bad we don't have a guy who could, get the enemies to sit down and make peace in the Middle East. A president like that. But we didn't want to have to look at all his mean tweets. Here's another one from Adil Raja. These are older ones. Hail Hitler. I'm not sure why it says hail and not Heil, but hail Hitler. There's a whole, here, I got it here. Yeah, his more. Where's the one where he roots for Germany? He was watching a game, an Olympics, there we go. He was watching, I don't know, is this World Cup soccer?
Must be.
The only reason I'm supporting Germany in the finals is Hitler was a German and he did good with those Jews. Again, CNN contributor Adil Raja. We haven't gotten a statement from CNN on this yet. I assume they will fire him and part ways with him.
Yeah, he's a freelancer. They already dropped him. Yep.
But it is amazing that they hired the guy, employed him, paid him, used him. And he was tweeting about how much he loves Hitler all along, which, first of all, and we've said this many times, some alarm bells should go off in your head if you're typing the name Hitler. If you're typing the name Hitler, and we've seen people like, Gina Carano lose her job in Hollywood because she made a Hitler analogy. Apparently it wasn't even Hitler. It was about Germany and the good people who, looked the other way during the rise of Hitler. And she sees that sort of in some cases today. It wasn't supporting Hitler, of course. Nobody supports Hitler except CNN contributors. This guy's literally like rooting for genocide. And he's at the same time covering news for CNN. How do you miss that? How do they not go back? How do they not look at his history, his Twitter history before doing that?
So his first byline with CNN was January 2nd, 2014. I have to imagine that kind of like a social media checkup, which I think is, I don't know what newspapers do nowadays. I'm assuming it's almost like a standard checkup nowadays, is just to kind of go through some kind of compliance to see if they're, before you hire a person. He probably missed that. He's kind of grandfathered into, he's all, because they didn't have that in place back then in 2014. So
you don't look, I mean, when you're, first of all, How many like
Just
retweets?
shows how irrelevant he is that they never noticed when he tweeted through the years about Hitler. Like they just know
before he deleted it, got at least 500 likes and 100 retweets. that the world needs a Hitler. But yeah, you're right. When he was tweeting about Hitler back in 2014, he didn't get nearly as much buzz when he said he was rooting for Germany because Germany did good with those Jews. He typed that, hit send, and then went back to working for CNN, covering news, covering war and international conflicts for CNN. So keep that in mind when you're watching CNN or reading CNN.com. This is the kind of person they employ. Or when you're reading an AP story about, troubles in the Middle East. Keep in mind, the Associated Press rented rooms. This is like, Kevin McCarthy renting a room from Frank Luntz. The Associated Press rented rooms from Hamas, a terrorist organization that targets civilians, that tries to kill children, not only in Israel, but in their own area. They use children as, human shields, and in this case, they use the Associated Press as a human shield. And I guess, the Associated Press should be thanking Israel today for warning them, because they could have taken out that building, been perfectly justified if this is the headquarters of a terrorist organization, and not warned them to get out before they did. But
by the way, it's so funny. It's so funny because I saw a social media clip of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah or whatever, and Frank Luntz was on it. And it's just so funny now seeing him do TV hits via Zoom, thinking that Kevin McCarthy is in the room next door. I guess.
By the way, Trevor Noah's got a history of anti-Semitic comments too. They're coming out of the woodwork. You're getting to see the true colors of some of these radical lefties, like my crazy Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley, who's just over the top. And I realize she got big praise from the Globe editorial because she's rooting for Hamas. She and the whole squad is rooting for Hamas. And BU had their commencement over the weekend. And guess who was speaking? The woman who lies about the cops every day, never gets called out, says the cops are all murderers. The woman who was rooting for Hamas against Israel. That woman was a featured speaker at BU's commencement. As if you didn't already know, BU was a joke. The school that graduated AOC, perhaps the most famous and dumbest member of the squad, AOC. I'm not sure why she didn't get to speak, but Ayanna did. And I didn't, see any highlights of it, but I'm sure she blamed the cops for everything. Blamed the cops in Israel for everything. And, systemic racism. I'm not sure what else she has to offer. That's all she tweets about. That's all she talks about. And no one ever calls her out. I'm going to keep counting. It's been 3 weeks since she said cops in this country have murdered 70 people after the George Floyd verdict. She said in the week after George Floyd verdict, she said cops in this country murdered 70 people. No one's pressed her on it. No one's asked her for a follow-up or asked her for some evidence. Doesn't matter. When you're in the squad, it means never having to explain yourself. You can say anything, as AOC and Ayanna and Rashida Tlaib have shown, and nobody will press you. Nobody will demand you explain yourself. That don't have to do that. Not with the media in this country. You can be as radical. You can hate Israel all you want. You can like Hitler, and it's not a problem. By the way, is that guy still on Twitter? Because as I tweeted, and by the way, I heard from one John Dennis over the weekend.
Ooh, that's information.
He was kicked off Twitter. He was kicked off Twitter, which is too bad. He was good on Twitter, good and crazy. Kicked off Twitter for the first time, I believe, was making fun of Lester Holt. Could have been both times because he was relentless. He hated Lester Holt and, point out how biased Lester Holt was. And I'm not sure who else was ever watching it, but Dino loved to watch Lester Holt and then, rip him on Twitter. That got him kicked off. So you can praise Hitler, but you can't make fun of Lester Holt. And you can't, they have rules. Jack Dorsey has rules. You can't, talk about, you can't make fun of any transgender individual, whether, I guess you probably can make fun of Caitlyn Jenner now since she's a Republican, but you can't, talk about the transgender issues, unless you're on the right side, Jack Dorsey's side. You can't say anything about Kyle Rittenhouse. You can't make fun of, mail-in voting. You can't mention voting irregularities or get your ass kicked off Twitter. but you can say, I love Hitler. That's okay. But making fun of Lester Holt gets you booted off the platform.
He is still on the platform, I believe.
He is.
Here,
So
yes.
Adil Raja, CNN contributor and big fan of Adolf Hitler, is still on Twitter, and Donald Trump and John Dennis are not. That I think tells you all you need to know about Twitter and Jack Dorsey's standards. But anyway, that will do it. We need a quick update from Dave Callahan. How are the negotiations going between you and Barstool? I know you are walking on air these days because you may get an opportunity at your dream job, I think. And it's not necessarily about
as a human being, I'm always aspiring to be better, Jerry. I'm always walking with a positive attitude, driving forward.
And I couldn't come up with a good equivalency for me, like a dream job at this point in my life. I've mentioned, whatever, playing for whatever playing in the NFL. But I guess it would be, I already had my dream job. I was a morning radio host. I worked at Sports Illustrated. I've had dream jobs, but nothing did for me what seeing your name on a check that says Barstool.
You're a little dramatic with this.
I picture you with a full head of steam. I picture you like saying, I've made it. This is my dream.
I've made it.
You are close to joining the Barstool family, which means you'll have little Twitter spats with people. I don't even know who they are, but I see them on Twitter. These, K Marcos and Ricos and all these guys are going to be you're going to be in their world.
Oh, thanks for the follow, Bosco, by the way. He followed me. I don't know if that's a hint.
I don't care. But are you close to achieving your dream?
I would say we're still talking. I am just same as Friday or same as Thursday, same report. Still talking, but same report.
I picture you spending the whole weekend telling friends and family and people saying, I may have the chance to actually work for Barstool.
No, I was daddy daycare. Listen, you know me. I'm eyes on the prize every day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the situation is. So we're just moving forward. That's all.
I don't know what happened when that opening came up with Spittin' Chicklets, your heroes. You idolize Rear Admiral. I thought you were going to have a chance. I
told you I didn't apply to that, and I was honest about it. I did not apply to that.
Well, I don't believe you because it sounded like a great job.
No, I told you I knew exactly what they wanted, and I was not that guy, and I knew it. All right, I know my role. I know my place.
By the way, none of these guys do podcasts every day, right? So you'd have less. I mean, obviously, you'd have to do more. You probably have to, go to New York and occasionally go to events, which would be, go to like golf events with the Spittin' Chicklet guys.
You are speculating more about this shit than I am.
Everyone wants to know. I don't. I
heard you talk to your buddy. You probably know more information than I know.
No, I don't. I mean, I just know that he's, keeping it all out front and
I'll give him respect. He's very
open.
He was very concerned about how Gerry Callahan would react. He was handling it. Both of you guys were great in talking about this.
So is there a decision pending? Are we? Should I be like Walensky predicting impending doom?
Yeah, impending doom. I don't know. That it's still in stage 1, so we'll see how long that takes. But it's
stage 1. Oh, phase 1, right? You haven't opened up.
Right. I'll keep it on brand.
We haven't opened up ball pits and water parks yet. Can't open up ball pits until the governor says we can open up ball pits and water parks. That's August 1st. Why don't you just make it November? We'll open up water parks in November. These people are dying. I don't want to go off on this again. But this is more proof that people like all these governors, not just Baker, but all these terrible, awful people who are in the governor's offices don't know anyone in the private sector, don't care about the private sector. They never say anything about all the, all the restaurants, small businesses that are struggling so much. They should start their press conference by saying, I'm going to get the hell out of your way. You people can go back to work. You can open up your businesses. You can hire back people. Good luck. We're sorry you had to go through so much. You are the backbone of this entire economy. We need you. Go to work. Don't worry about us anymore. We're going to get out of your way. Forget whatever masks and Purell and plexiglass shields. Just go to work. Open up. People are dying, by the way, to go out to restaurants. I went, to a restaurant Saturday night after the graduation to celebrate, and it was not cheap, but it was good. Capitol Grill, and it was packed, and people waiting and outside. And I mean, these places are going to do great if the governor just get out of their way. I just want to hear that. I just want to hear some governor besides Ron DeSantis say, you know, you're so important to us as a state, as an economy. We're sorry you've been through this. We're going to get out of the way now. Thank you. Go nuts. Enjoy. You know, open up, make some money. You know, just hire as many people as you can. We're gonna stop, you know, being an obstacle in your way. And
God bless the small business, you know, the small restaurants that got through this. My God, like that must have just been horrific the last year.
I mean, half of them are gone. The governors put half the businesses out of business. And imagine how frustrating it must be to own a restaurant, and your life's invested in that. We've talked to restaurateurs on this show, and you look at Florida, or you look at Texas, or you look at whatever, South Dakota, and you say, if I were there, I'd be doing fine. If I were there, I wouldn't have lost my life savings. If I were there, I'd be thriving right now. I'd be, you know, buying a new house and sending my kid to college. Instead, I'm sitting here wondering how I'm going to make ends meet just because of your governors, just because of these overzealous control freaks, these power drunk little tyrants. They're the reason you are out of work or out of business or out of money, or your kid can't go to that school, or you can't, afford your mortgage. That person in each state, in every blue state, that governor is the reason you're going through what you're going through. As again, I talk about walking and running around the city every day, and it is depressing to see restaurants, near the Garden, near Fenway, that you knew, that were always packed, that were always full, that were always, hopping, are just gone. And everyone's like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. It is a big deal. It's time to give what's left of these small businesses a fighting chance. Just get out of the way, Governor. Just shut up and get out of the way, and stop giving us dates. It's over. It's over. Everything's open, including ball pits and water parks. Everything's open. Now go home. Go away. Just go away. You've worked hard the last year, Governor. How about you take a break? How about you go away for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and let people live their friggin' lives? All right. I don't know why I got back.
To rant. Oh, you should have done that rant earlier in the show. I think that would be mine.
I did.
Yeah. Sure. You did it again. Yeah. That's.
But anyway, thanks to Shea Concrete and Allied Paving, and thanks to DCU. Thanks everyone for listening and for watching on YouTube. Any good comments there? Because I haven't had a real chance to read it. I've been talking.
Yeah, no, just bashing. One, we were bashing. Somebody was bashing Twitter, bashing all the people that are still wearing masks outdoors, and so yeah, just the basics.
It is. I'm close. I'm close to saying something to somebody. Mostly when I see people with their kids, their 5 and 8 year, 6 and 7 year olds masked up. I want to say, have you followed the news? Do you really think that's making a difference? Do you really
want to start shit with people? Like, that's my problem.
I don't. I shouldn't, but it is annoying. You feel like saying, hey, read up.
Yeah.
People read up. They don't need masks. There's no reason for your child to have a mask. I feel like, and I know Turtle Boy's been doing this, going into stores and restaurants without masks and just daring them to yell at him, and they don't. But I feel like that's going to happen more and more, where people are just going to walk in whatever grocery store or restaurant without a mask. It is silly. I mean, I'm at this restaurant packed on Saturday, and you got to have your face covered till you get to your table. Then you don't. And then the waitress comes by and she's covered up, and you're going, "What? I'm not. Why are you?" The rules. I think people don't realize now the rules are just arbitrary and stupid, and they're done.
What do people do? Like, are all the rules posted? Like, everywhere you go now, is there like the front door? It's posted, because if you're outside on the sidewalk, you don't have a mask, and you want to just you shouldn't have to assume what the rule is, right? So if you're fully vaccinated,
yeah, that's true. We don't know, and they don't have. You don't have to prove. It says if you're fully vaccinated, you can do this, but there's no way to prove it right now. It might be coming. You might have to put a little star on your chest, or, it might be a tattoo or something. But right now, they don't have any way of knowing who's vaccinated and who isn't. And you know what? Who cares? Again, I don't know why we do this. Who cares if you're vaccinated? Why do you care if someone else is? Why? No one can explain it to me. But hey, we'll ask again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. But we will leave it there for today. Thanks, Callahan. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.